Salutation scholars, here's what you can do if you ever run across a word that you're unfamiliar of. There's some strategies that you can use to figure out the meaning without having to go get a dictionary, or if you're in a situation like a test where you can't use a dictionary to look up the meaning because all you have is your brain. So here are some ways to help your brain out. Okay, so under reading, under vocabulary, we have strategies. Now, these strategies form a net of meaning that will help us catch what we are looking for. So the first strategy is you need to identify the word's part of speech based on how it behaves in a sentence. An example is, he could depose them if they did not perform their job. Now, depose, we see that it is located after the subject. That gets the clue because we know English is subject, verb, object, so maybe it's a verb. Let's see, we have the auxiliary verb could, and the auxiliary verb always comes before the main verb, so yes, depose is a verb. Now we know that a verb is an action or a state of being. So what is an action that is performed to people who are not performing their job? I would think, he could depose them if they did not perform their job. If you think depose means to get rid of or be fired, then yes, you are correct. That is what it means in this situation. All right. Another strategy is that you can place the word with a substitute and see if it makes sense. So that was an ingenious solution to the problem. Now, ingenious, we see it's an adjective, so we use the first strategy a little bit to help us on this one. Now, maybe you don't know what ingenious means, but smart, clever, brilliant. Does that make sense? That was a smart solution to the problem, a brilliant solution to the problem, a clever solution to the problem? Yes, it makes sense. So that's the strategy there. Third strategy is that you can read before or after the word for context. Remember, context means the of the textiles woven together. So if we don't know what the word monologue means, we can back up a little bit. Okay, it's something that obviously happens on a stage. It has to do with speaking because you took a deep breath before you did it, and apparently it lasted a long time. So a speech. So it's something that you do a speech on stage. That's a monologue. And also he's singular monologues, mono one. Which leads us to our next strategy. Dissect the word to see if meaning can be constructed. So I just dissected mono. We know mono means one, so he's singular. Here we have the word disoriented. We can dissect the word. We have dis, which we've learned is a prefix that means not, and we have orient, which comes from the word orientation, which means, if you're oriented, like ships orient their direction on the North Star in the past, so that means you know the direction somewhere. So if you are not oriented, then you are confused, you've lost your way, you lost your direction, and indeed that is what disorient means. So we take it apart to build it back together. And our final strategy that we have is that we can look at, this kind of goes along with context, but it's not the context of the paragraph, it's the context of the word inside of the format it's in. So you can look at the text features for clues, such as what do the pictures nearby indicate, any bold words, the subheading that it belongs under. Maybe that can give you the meaning because they've categorized it under the subheading. So those are your strategies. Now that we have these strategies, there is one more strategy, a meta strategy, which means you use all of these in a combination. In fact, they blend into one another naturally. And I accidentally used this strategy when talking about this strategy. So they form a big net where we can catch the meaning. An example would be here. The zoo advocates and calls attention to the main functions. Okay, so I used one of our first strategy, the orange strategy. Oh, it's a noun, so it has to be person, place, thing, or idea. And since I know it's a noun, well, people generally only call attention to things if advocate is a noun, and the verb of the sentence calls attention. So a person who can call attention. And they're calling attention to conservation education. We're looking at the context. You're calling attention to these positive things. So who's someone who calls attention to positive things? And then the last one, looking at text features, it just so happens that the title of the text where this sentence was pulled from is called Views on Zoos. So if the view is calling something a positive, and a person who's doing it, what is the noun that a person who points out positive aspects because they like zoos? If you guessed like fan or helper, you're right, because the dictionary definition of advocate is a person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. So that is how we can use context clues. Now, maybe you're wondering, why do we have to use these strategies when you can just go get a dictionary? That would be so much easier. Yes, it would be. It would be easier, it would be faster. However, using a dictionary only proves that you know how to use a dictionary. Using these strategies proves that you can think. And that's my job as an educator, to help you learn to think. So that is why we need to do this. Exercise your brain.